Welcome, everyone, to Mythstorie, a podcast about myths and history. I am one of your hosts, Bryant, with my permanent guest, Cammy. Hey there, Cammy.
Hey, Bryant, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm fantastic as well. You're looking mighty sexy with your contacts there.
Shaved head contacts. Yeah, absolutely. You can watch us. You can see our faces on YouTube. Just look up us, Mythstorie. Remember, all one word. I've realized, Cammy, this is a bit of a not a tongue twister. It's a little difficult. We have to explain it, and it doesn't hit
Right.
the head easy. I've learned, and then it doesn't help too. Whenever I type it out, I keep doing Mythstoire. I
The
keep flipping the
store.
O and the R, and that's our
Mhm.
French counterpart that doesn't post anything. It doesn't help. Yeah, Mythstorie podcast about myths and history, video podcast on all your favorite podcast services. We pick random topics in legend, historical events, real, unreal, anything. Lately, we've been on a kick of the Greco-Roman style, and we're going to keep that ball rolling for a little bit longer because it's easy, people. Okay, I'm sorry. All right,
And it's fun, and we haven't covered them
and it's pretty
except
fun.
for
Yeah.
in this case.
Right. So a couple that we have, and another big thing too, we're going to be revisiting an old topic, which we did one of our first few episodes. So if you're one of the OGs from 3-4 years ago, whatever it was, then you'll remember this. And that's the great, and I'm only going to use this name once, Hercules. Scratch that, Cammy. His name's Heracles.
Heracles.
We're not Latin speakers here. So yeah, Hercules is the Latin name for Heracles, and Heracles is the original Greek name for the hero of the same name. Huncules is also acceptable, thanks to the Disney movie. You can do that. That's anyway. So yeah, we if you didn't know, we talked about a few topics before. We're revisiting them with our high format that we've perfected over this time. The old show wasn't in video and stuff like that. If you ever want to listen to our old shows, pinecast.com/mythstorie is our hosting platform, which you can get if you want to start your own podcast. You can start from there. Great service. You can, if you tip us like $1 even, it will give you all of the old episodes. I've hidden them. I made them private. But if you tip us even $1, you get access to them. I think you can even just download them and bank them, and then I don't know. I don't know if you really want to do that. But the way we go is Cammy's going to give us a story, which we don't ramble on the beginning this much. We usually dive right into it. But Cammy's going to give us a story of Heracles, and then I'll discuss a little bit about it. Little concise because there's a lot here. So I've made this a little smaller. So I'll make up with this rambling beginning with a fun discussion after Cammy's story. So Cammy, please take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So I used Ovid Metamorphosis, book 9, and I used the website ovid.lib.virginia.edu, and it was the A.S. Klein translation.
Hmm.
After long journeys of heroic deeds, Hercules set for home with his wife, the lovely Deianira. They came upon a great river, and the hero was eager to cross, so that he may make his haste home. And so, to his luck, a centaur was at the bank, near where the couple stood. And the centaur offered to carry his wife to the other side on his back while Hercules waded the waters. In agreement, it seemed to be the easiest and safest way to cross. He threw his bow to the other bank and made his way quickly. Though the centaur was quicker, and when he made it to the other side, he began to run away with the hero's bride. Hercules willed the water to carry him faster as he swam, and when he made it to the bow, he shot the beast with a poison-tipped arrow of hydra blood, and it fell. But the centaur, son of Ixion, was not willing to leave without revenge. He gave the bride a tunic soaked in the centaur's now poisoned blood as a parting gift. He said the garment would ensure that Hercules remained faithful to her. But centaurs are known to be liars. Now, once they were back to the safety of their home, the couple was only happy for a short time, for rumor was at work, spreading her heinous half-truths to all that would listen. And Deianira believed now that her husband was in the throes of an affair. She struggled with the murdering of innocent women who had never even looked in his direction, but she settled to send her husband the bloodied tunic to win back his love. Hercules was thrilled to have a present from his wife, and he wrapped it on his shoulders, and from that moment his body burned like it was on fire, and he writhed, for he could not tear the garment from his flesh, for it became one with the skin. He begged his father, Jupiter, for death and laid himself on his own funeral pyre and lit it. The gods were fearful that their champion was killed, but Jove brought him to the table of the gods and made him eat and drink with them so that he may forever be in his rightful place.
Oof. Asking daddy for help now, aren't you?
Right.
Jupiter, of course, being Zeus. In this case, you used Ovid's Metamorphosis. Ovid wrote, what was he, 20 AD roughly, right? 20,
I think
40
it
AD?
was about the time of like Augustus and
Right.
all of those people. So
Prime Rome, and or maybe prime decline. I don't know. But yeah, Ovid. So yeah, he was a great historian, writer, and anything you can think of. And he helped kind of collaborate, Latinize, and also legitimize the connection between Caesar and to the past. You know, the Romans were obsessed with the Greek culture, even though they took over the Greek lands, but the Greek culture took over the Romans. and but the stories are still really the same. And Heracles it's an incredible. I remember our original discussion, and I got to revisit a little bit since it's been a while since I came back here, and it's just really fun to see. Of course, we have written sources going back to the 5th century BC, but we've got, Hercules is so identifiable. If you see like a naked dude with what is it, the lion skin
yep.
and a club, Hercules. If it's one of those three, like naked dude, Hercules, club, if it's one of those three things, it's Hercules. If you see it. And he's quite literally, like, probably, I mean, the most famous being in the Greek pantheon, essentially. Another fun, like, Roman thing I was just reading about or remembering in one of my favorite books about Byzantium is how Commodus, the son of Marcus Aurelius, the famous philosopher, emperor, who had a horrible son, who was murdered by the Senate after a few years of his horrible
I know where
reign.
you're going with this. Okay, yeah.
Commodus claimed he was a direct descendant of Hercules. So,
and he was always pictured with the lion skin.
yeah, oh yeah, and that was like totally his doing, 100%. So it's really funny to see that's how important it was. That, and Commodus was not, or Marcus Aurelius. Oh God, when did he reign? Anyway, it was all pretty, like, this was well after Hercules was established. So Hercules, it's tough to like narrow down when Hercules began. There is a core story of Hercules, or Heracles, I'll say, has been identified by the scholar of Greek myth and cult, Walter Burkert. He believes it's originating in Neolithic hunter culture and traditions of shamanistic crossings into the netherworld, which is what I was thinking. So
it reminds me a little of Orion, even.
Yeah,
who was part of that culture. And
absolutely.
they actually took, there was a, we did Artemis last time, and there was a female goddess who was still the goddess of the hunt. And I think you may have talked about this, but
correct.
Yeah, that was Neolithic.
Right. Yeah. And so it's important to remember, if you didn't listen to the episode, it's important to remember that, like, the Greek, they weren't all like, hey, we're all Greek. It was very much city state citizenship and culture. And, even before, like, the concept of a citizen, the Greek religion and mythos goes beyond, like, civilization in a lot of ways. They each kind of had their own gods that would sort of naturally form, but then as the more they grew and became familiar with each other, they'd be like, oh, your version is that and that, and then it would kind of meld and things like that. And then somebody eventually, these stories would get, they have to have like certain truths and sequences, and eventually, so what, his name might have been something else somewhere, but it eventually Heracles was the important name. And Heracles' name too, it's just it's supposed to mean like Hera's glory, essentially. Apparently, like, the idea is that it was supposed to appease Hera, because Alcmene was the mortal mother of Hercules, and we know how Zeus is with having babies with other people and other things, as other things do. So, but he incredibly important. And it's just fun to see. Another thing that Walter Burkhardt believes too. He says it's possible that the myths surrounding Heracles were based on the life of a real person or several people whose accomplishments became exaggerated with time. That is Euhemerism in a nutshell. So awesome things could have happened. Some dude could have. I mean, I'm at one point a lion could have been somewhere, and he could
Right.
have bashed it in the head with a club, and that story spreads like wildfire. It gets altered a little bit, and it gets tied in, and you have it go there.
Oh, he
Um,
fought a hydra. He was so
exactly.
cool.
Yeah. But he was like the one of the most notable like demigod things too. And apparently, I don't have too much on this, but there were some references. I use Theoi in Wikipedia here. Theoi being just an awesome resource as always. Um, it's not like super common to have like demigods. And it's sort of there's like it's common to be recognized as a hero, and which is kind of like a mortal who's like almost godlike. So, but it's tough to like. From what I'm gathering, like some people would like the Athenians would straight up worship Heracles as like a legit god. But there were Greek cities that refused to recognize his divine status, which was really interesting. But there was some cities would even have separate sanctuaries, one as a god, one as a hero. So that way, if you
Oh,
wanted to do
weird.
that, the ancient poet Pindar, I think he was of the 5th century. Yeah, one of the oldest resources we have, written resources. He calls him Heros Theos, so like hero god, basically. So this ambiguity helped create the Heracles cult, especially when ancient historians like Herodotus, and artists were encouraged to worship. Um, uh, and so where we see Heracles like entering Olympus, so his like divine rising, his hero rising was like a feature point. So it seems like that was a very controversial, not necessarily in a negative way, but that was such a big focal point for him, was that. Um, so I love it though. Uh, the earliest evidence that shows worship of a Heracles in popular cult was in the 6th century BCE, via an ancient inscription in this from Phaleron. After the 4th century BCE, Heracles became identified with the Phoenician god Melkart, which I remember us discussing that too. Melkart's like another hero kind of god, or just someone who did a bunch of crazy fun stuff. I mentioned Herodotus a minute ago. We've talked about him a lot. He's just a very famous historian. He lived in 484 BC. He actually wrote in his histories that Heracles lived 900 years before Herodotus, so around which would have been 1300 BCE, which is also kind of projected when the Trojan War happened, or like in the story's sake. Or no, not necessarily when the Trojan War happened. That's one of the latest points where Homer's poems could have taken place. The Trojan War would have been a little bit further than that, but so you can kind of see there's a fun. I love a legit historian kind of estimating and dictating when Heracles was around. That was, like that would be like me like really focusing on when Spider-Man was, like I just love
Right.
that idea. But it was scholarly then. It was just cool. Of course, this is kind of my last point. I want to say I think so for the most part. Yeah, the cult. Oh, God, you can't. So many cults around him, from North Africa to Spain. Tons of cities, an Egyptian temple dedicated to him in 21 BCE. Several ancient cities are tied to him. Herakleos, several cities were named after him. So he's absolutely everywhere. I will mention too, Theoi divides their pages on him. It's a little interesting because of how it interesting he is. It mentions, it kind of starts off, it focuses on his labors, the 12 major, and then there were minor labors. So you can kind of go through those. And then the cult of Heracles is divided into 3 pages where it kind of goes through regional areas of what areas did what with Hercules and Heracles, and what ancient sources discuss in their interpretations. But there's a lot of common ground there. I don't want to get to the specifics. The last thing that I just really want to mention, which this blew my mind last time, is the Greco-Buddhism page on Wikipedia, which is thanks to Alexander the Great crossing through the Indus Valley. We have there are these awesome like Buddhist temples that have like engravings of Hercules. It's like very obviously Hercules. Like it's a very, you'll see the very Buddhist iconography, the statue works and things like that. And then just freaking right next to it is this like clip art of Hercules carved into this thing. And it's absolutely wild to see, but that's how influential this was. And there's a lot here too. And it's more than I should talk about here. This is a whole topic of its own, but I think we sometimes forget about this. But Alexander, while his empire didn't last long, it reached far, and it did open up the trade routes. And after he died, his empire was split up, and there was a big Greek presence through the east, in that point, or the west, at that point. And we have evidence of it through these carvings of what is clearly like a Greek Heracles being carved into these Buddhist figurines. And to note too, it's believed that he was sort of like depicted as a defender of it as well. So
he's defending the temple. That's why he's
right.
erected. Oh, that's
exactly.
Really cool.
Yeah. I there wasn't a lot of like religious exclusion, at the time. No, it was all about cults and things like that. So when you go through, you see the Buddhist cult, you're Greek, or
this makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. You're just like, oh, you guys do that. Oh, this sounds a lot like this and that. So, well, here, this dude is awesome. Write him in, or you carve him in here, and he'll protect you. That kind of thing. So, it's wild. And this was 4th century and 5th century, 4th century BC, all the way through the 5th century AD. So this big connection between the East and West Asia at this time, that I absolutely love to like see these. It's just so like, it seems like asymmetrical, but it was wild. So I think that's about all I got that I can cover right now. I'm sure we could do an episode. We probably should do a couple episodes on some of the labors. They're really incredible. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how the stories came together, specifically, but they definitely got refined. And depending on like Euripides did a play called Heracles, and the ending of that is a little different. He doesn't die. He's driven to madness. Well, he kind of dies from the madness. Sometimes the labors are just him being bored. Sometimes it's a divine mission. Sometimes it's how he becomes a god. Sometimes it grants him immortality. Sometimes it's because he has to, or it's penance for the crime of slaying his family. There's a lot there, and it's really cool to see the interpretations and things like that. Speaking of like the Marvel Comics kind of motif, it's like, you got Spider-Man, then you got Spider-Man 2099, then you got Spider-Man Noir, and it's like all these different ways to interpret a story and a character, and put in these philosophies and things like that. Put your own like cultural twist on it too, and the perspective of ancient Greece to like Rome in its prime, that kind of thing. I love it. Well, Cammy, thank you for your story. Thank you, Ovid,
Bryant,
for the metamorphosis. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, if you enjoyed the show, let us know. Watch us on YouTube, listen to us on all major podcast services. I know recently I've spoke with a lot of people who I imagine will kind of catch these new episodes. Welcome if you are listening to them now. Mythstorie.net is where you can go to our landing page to see all of our links and social media and stuff like that. If you have any topics, let us know. Just send us a comment, email, mystery at gmail is our direct email if you want to get in touch with us. Yeah, I think that's it, right, Cammy?
Well, I do want to say, if you are hungry for more Hercules, there are 2 episodes, one of which you do have to access through the Tip Jar Pinecast, and that does cover the Euripides play.
Mm-hmm.
And the second episode would be our Zodiac episode with Peter, I believe.
That's right.
On cancer.
That's cool. Not the medical condition.
Right.
Yeah, we don't talk about that on the show. That one might be on. I don't know if I think I left most of the episodes of Peter out on the open, so you should be able to find it. But it would have been called Zodiac Signs. We did a recent one on Zodiac, Chinese Zodiac. But if you scroll down a little bit, you should be able to find it near the beginning, first maybe 20 episodes or so. I would say it should be there.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. We might be able to even link it in the.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe?
I can do that. Yeah, I can search it and pop it in. I think you can search on Pinecast too, like episode names. So if you type Zodiac, it should pop it up. I'll do that too, though. But awesome. Well, yeah, no, great suggestion, Cammy. Yeah, if you want more, go for it. We are on a Greco-Roman kick right now. So please, I hope you can bear with us on it. There's a lot. and we're enjoying it too. Theoi makes it really easy,
Yeah,
thankfully.
absolutely.
So it's fun. But
Ovid's
everyone,
metamorphosis makes it easy.
right? Yeah, exactly. Uh, well, everyone, we appreciate your time with us. Let us know if we can do anything for you, and we will see you next time.
Oh.